The zombie apocalypse, that most unfortunate of urban remodeling events, tend to inspire an impressive array of survival strategies. Some people envision themselves as rugged forest hermits, living off the land with nothing but a hatchet and a suspicious knowledge of which berries won't kill you. Others swear by shopping malls, convinced that endless supplies of Cinnabon and sports equipment will get them through the end of days. But then there's a special breed of survival dreamers, the skyscraper enthusiasts. These folks picture themselves perched high above the chaos, ruling the undead-infested world from the glass and steel throne of a corporate high-rise. It's an alluring fantasy, soaring above the moaning hordes, sipping rainwater cocktails on the rooftop garden, and declaring yourself the CEO of the apocalypse. But does the idea hold up when you move past the cinematic daydream and apply the merciless logic of survival? Let's begin with the obvious selling point: height. Zombies are famously terrible at vertical mobility. The standard shambling variety barely manages curbs, let alone a 40-floor climb. Even the sprinters of more ambitious horror films are limited by the one thing zombies have in common: they don't do cardio. With elevators disabled and stairwells barricaded, you've basically created the world's most depressing penthouse suite, guarded by the laws of gravity itself. For once, those overpriced city views actually come with a life-saving perk. If you're the kind of person who secretly hates your downstairs neighbors, congratulations. The undead won't be stomping around your ceiling at 2 in the morning. Beyond the sheer elevation, skyscrapers offer what military tacticians drool over: choke points. Unlike suburban houses with 1,000 windows and doors practically begging to be kicked in, high-rises have a limited number of entry points. A lobby, a loading dock, a couple of stairwells. That's it. Reinforce those, and you've reduced your entire survival problem to a few manageable gates. Zombies and intruders alike are funneled into bottlenecks, and bottlenecks are where clever traps shine. Think medieval castle defense, but with office chairs and fire extinguishers. If you've ever wanted to live in a tower that doubles as a murder funnel, a skyscraper is your golden ticket. And then there's the structure itself. High-rises aren't slapped together like your uncle's questionable backyard shed. These things are engineered to survive hurricanes, earthquakes, and the occasional idiot in a helicopter. Reinforced concrete, steel skeletons, tempered glass. Skyscrapers are designed to keep the outside world outside. In an apocalypse where houses can be knocked over by a large horde or go up in flames faster than you can say gas leak, the durability of a skyscraper is pure gold. You're not just hiding in a building. You're inhabiting a vertical bunker disguised as a corporate accounting firm. But let's not stop at defenses. Imagine the resources. People think of skyscrapers as soulless office blocks filled with sad cubicles and passive-aggressive sticky notes. But those sad cubicles hide treasure. Vending machines stuffed with chips and candy bars, first aid kits tucked away in break rooms, cafeterias that once served lukewarm soup but now serve salvation, gyms filled with bottled water and protein powder, entire floors of server rooms with cables, batteries, and possibly a generator if you're lucky. Multiply these small jackpots by 40 floors, and you're not just surviving. You're playing the greatest scavenger hunt of your life. And if you're in a mixed-use tower, jackpot. Restaurants, apartments, convenience stores, all potentially untouched by the early chaos. Clearing floor by floor might be nerve-wracking, but the payoff is the closest thing to a post-apocalyptic Costco. And then, like a crown jewel, the rooftop. A skyscraper rooftop is a blank slate of possibility. Rainwater collection systems practically beg to be built there, turning every storm into free hydration. Gardens can sprout in plastic bins, feeding you when the vending machine Twinkies finally run dry. The space doubles as a lookout, a radio hub, even a helipad if you somehow manage to convince a pilot that your rooftop fort is the hottest club in town. And let's not underestimate morale. Watching the sun rise over a city of ruin, or spotting a lone bird still flying against the horizon, gives you a reminder that the world hasn't ended completely. Sometimes hope is worth more than canned beans. At this point, skyscrapers sound like a survivalist dream. Strong, high, resource-rich, defensible, self-sustaining. But here's where the cracks appear, literally and metaphorically. Living in a skyscraper during the apocalypse isn't all rooftop farming and smug superiority. It's also a logistical nightmare disguised as an architectural marvel. Let's start with movement. Every forgotten item turns into a death march. Left your can opener in the lobby? Congratulations, that's a 2-hour stair climbing adventure complete with sweat, risk, and a constant reminder that you're one twisted ankle away from starving at the top of Steel Tower. Need to make a supply run outside? Now you're facing the descent, a vertical gauntlet of potential threats in pitch-black stairwells. And the return trip? That's you, gasping for air, dragging a sack of supplies up more steps than you'd care to count. People underestimate how much energy survival already takes. Add a skyscraper's worth of cardio, and you're burning through calories like an Olympic athlete, except your medal is didn't die today. Worse still, skyscrapers may be fortresses, but they're also cages. With limited exits, a single blocked stairwell or fire can trap you faster than a sitcom character in a revolving door. Zombies breach the lower levels. You're in a vertical coffin. Fire breaks out below. Unless you're Spider-Man, you're toast. Skyscrapers trade horizontal vulnerability for vertical entrapment, and that bargain only feels good until you realize the only escape plan involves wings. And let's not forget visibility. Skyscrapers are not subtle. They loom on the skyline like giant neon signs that scream, "Loot me." Every desperate survivor, looter, and zombie in the city will notice the one tower with barricaded windows and suspicious rooftop activity. High-rises are too conspicuous to stay secret for long. You're not hiding, you're advertising. And in a world where resources are scarce, advertising equals invasion. Noise is another problem skyscraper optimists tend to overlook. In a normal office building, a drop stapler is just an awkward interruption to Karen's story about her cat. In the apocalypse, that same drop stapler is the dinner bell of doom. Skyscrapers are made of hard, echo-prone surfaces, concrete, glass, steel, that turn every noise into an amplified horror soundtrack. A can rolling across the floor doesn't just clatter. It ricochets through multiple levels like you've summoned the ghost of a very angry janitor. Without soundproofing, even whispers can travel. And while you might think your survivor's only book club is private, the echoes could be guiding zombies, or worse, other humans, right to your floor. This echo effect also destroys your situational awareness. You might hear footsteps, but good luck figuring out whether they're above, below, or one office cubicle away. The uncertainty builds paranoia. Paranoia builds stress, and stress leads to mistakes. And in the apocalypse, mistakes aren't just embarrassing, they're fatal. Imagine sprinting 20 flights up because you thought you heard something only to discover it was the wind rattling a vent. Congratulations, you're exhausted, drenched in sweat, and still just as doomed. Even if you manage to stay silent, skyscrapers have another nasty secret: ventilation. Without power, the HVAC systems that normally keep these steel towers breathable shut down. Upper floors become ovens where heat rises and stagnates. Humidity builds, mold grows, and air quality tanks. It's like living inside a sealed Tupperware container left in the sun. You start out sweating, then coughing, then wondering if suffocation will kill you before the zombies do. Sure, you could crack a window, but many skyscraper windows don't open, and the ones that do are not designed for cross-ventilation. You're essentially suffocating in luxury. And remember, this isn't just about comfort. Poor ventilation breeds bacteria, mold spores, and illness. Nothing says survival nightmare like being taken down by a sinus infection while the undead are at the door. Then comes the problem that no amount of duct tape and clever engineering can fix: isolation. At first, being high above the chaos feels like bliss. No moaning, no screaming, no gunfire. Just eerie silence and the occasional pigeon. But over weeks and months, that silence grows oppressive. You're trapped in a vertical tomb of glass and steel, surrounded by empty hallways and echoing stairwells. The city becomes a painting outside your window, frozen and untouchable. Days blur together. time loses meaning. Conversations become internal debates with yourself, and even winning those feels hollow. Loneliness gnaws at your sanity in ways zombies never could. Humans are social creatures. We thrive on interaction, even if it's just arguing about whose turn it is to wash dishes. In a skyscraper, that social glue dissolves. You're cut off, suspended above the world like a forgotten artifact. The psychological toll becomes the deadliest threat of all. Survivors might lose the will to maintain defenses, grow reckless during supply runs, or simply give up. The skyscraper fortress becomes less about physical safety and more about emotional imprisonment. A gilded cage with a fantastic view. And supply runs, the bane of any apocalypse plan, only get worse with time. Early on, you might strike gold. Vending machines, half-stock cafeterias, forgotten water bottles. But supplies dwindle. The candy bars vanish, the bottled water dries up, the last protein shake goes warm. Eventually, you're forced back into the outside world. Only now, your quick run involves a marathon descent and an equally miserable climb back with 50 pounds of scavenged goods strapped to your back. Each trip is a logistical nightmare that burns time, energy, and morale. And let's face it, you can't live off stale chips and dusty granola bars forever. When the city around you is stripped clean, your skyscraper paradise collapses into starvation with a view. At this point, the skyscraper looks less like a fortress and more like an elaborate trap set by irony itself. It lures you in with promises of safety, height, and resources, then slowly grinds you down with exhaustion, isolation, and logistical impossibility. You survive the zombies only to be undone by stairs, bad air, and boredom. Not exactly the heroic apocalypse ending Hollywood promised. Still, skyscrapers aren't entirely without merit. They buy you time, and in a zombie apocalypse, time is often the difference between life and death. They provide a temporary sanctuary to regroup, heal, and plan. They let you observe the chaos from above, gather rainwater, and fortify a space that's genuinely hard to breach. For the early chaos, when the world is falling apart and you just need breathing room, a skyscraper can be invaluable. It's a pause button on the apocalypse, a place to catch your breath while the rest of humanity forgets how to walk in a straight line. But skyscrapers are not forever homes. They're pit stops, not destinations. Over the long haul, the very qualities that make them strong, height, isolation, limited access, become liabilities. Safety turns to entrapment. Supplies turn to starvation. Silence turns to madness. The skyscraper fortress isn't your kingdom, it's your cage. Survivors who cling to them too long will find themselves out of food, out of air, and out of luck. So, are skyscrapers good in a zombie apocalypse? The answer is maddeningly paradoxical. Yes, and absolutely not. They're brilliant for the short term, catastrophic for the long term. They'll keep you alive through the first waves of chaos, but they won't carry you into the future. The skyscraper is the apocalypse equivalent of a flashy sports car. Impressive, powerful, and guaranteed to get you killed if you mistake it for a reliable family sedan. The true survivor treats the skyscraper for what it is, a temporary stronghold, a high ground advantage, a breathing space. You use it to gather strength, plan your next move, maybe plant a rooftop tomato or two. But then you leave. Because in the end, survival isn't about building the perfect fortress. It's about adapting, moving, and refusing to let the apocalypse, or the skyscraper, turn you into a prisoner of your own cleverness.